I've got three pages here. One is the main home page that has two iframes, and those iframes are going to have other pages fit inside of them. Those other two pages are this one sound.html, and all you have is this sound bar. This is a QuickTime media player plugin thingy, and for this we have HTML beginning tag all the way to the end. There's the ending, and then you have a head, and inside the head we have a style, and the style for the body is background color black, color white, and then we have a special style called ID soundbar, and the soundbar is a div that has a padding of 5 pixels, a margin top of 25 pixels, and a text align of center. That ends the style, ends the head, and here's the body. In the body, there's that div ID soundbar, there's the beginning div tag, and there's the ending. And inside that div, we have this object ID equals media player 1, class ID equals, and then you have this big long letter number combination, code base equals, and then you have this www.apple link address. It has a height of 20 and a width of 90%. And then you have parameters. Param name equals source value equals a hand to guide me.mp3. That is the mp3 file that this media player plays. You have another parameter, param name autoplay equals false, so that when the page opens this doesn't immediately start playing the audio. The user has to click this button, then the audio starts to play, and you could hit pause if you want to pause it. You have autoplay, param name equals autoplay value equals false. I just told you that. Param name equals controller value equals true, because you want this controller to show, so you could hit play and then pause, or if there's a list here you could go forward or backward. Then you have an embed, and there's the embed tag, the beginning and ending embed tag, and whatever parameters you have set in your object tag, they have to match here. So here you have height 20 and width 90. Here you have height 20 and width 90. Same thing with the source. It's got to have the same path, a hand to guide me.mp3. Then here you had code base equals, and you had an address. Here you have plugins page, and you have another address. Then you have type equals video / QuickTime, controller equals true, autoplay equals false. The controller and the autoplay are the same as this autoplay and controller, false and true for that, false and true for that. End of the embed, end of the object, end of the div, end of the body, end of the HTML. So in a nutshell, this is all this page is. It's just a little media player with an MP3. Then the next thing we have is this page. And this is our one images.html. There's the beginning HTML, there's the end, there's the head, and inside the head we have a style. The body has a background color of black, a color of white, a text align of center, a margin of 0, and a padding of 0. Then we have this ID box, and after the body we have div ID box. It's like the container that holds these two images. Here's an image, which is this one, and here's another image, which is this one. And this div ID box is what's holding them both. So let's go to box. Border is 20 pics of yellow ridge, which you see going all the way around. The height is 100% and the width is 100%. So what that means is as you open to a larger monitor or go to a smaller one, this might get skinnier or fatter, but at least it's always going to hold these two images in the page. And it's going to be surrounded by this golden border. Then you have image tag itself, and we're going to give that a display of inline. End of the style, end of the head. Here's the body. Here's that div ID of box that I just explained. It's styles. And in there we have an image tag. Source equals a hand to guide me.jpg, which is this one on the left. Alt equals A Hand to Guide Me by Denzel Washington. If something happens, let's misspell the name of this JPEG file. And if we misspell it and hit save and then run this, you see a broken picture like a torn paper, and then you see the words A Hand to Guide Me by Denzel Washington. Well, the words right here is what the alt tag gives us. It means it's an alternative if something happens to the image, or if you're blind and you're using some type of screen reader, this will let the blind person know that they have passed across an image, which they're not going to be able to see, but this is going to give them that explanation. Then the title, this title keyword, we have the same words in here, but they don't have to be the same words. This is a tooltip that not all browsers have. Let me bring the JPEG back by spelling it correctly, getting rid of that Z, and then go ahead and reload the page. When I take my cursor and run it over this image, see that pop up? That little tiny tooltip says A Hand to Guide Me by Denzel Washington. That's basically also over here when I float my mouse over this other image. You can do this by Walter Anderson. The title keyword is what does that. And we're using the title in both of these. Now, I've tried this in different browsers and they don't work. The title does not work in all browsers, but it definitely does in Firefox. Then we have the style keyword, and you can actually style the image itself right in the image tag. So we have a width of 45% and a height of 100% because I want both of these to sit in here side by side, and if they were more than 50% of the width, then they would be too fat because 50 and 50 is 100. So if it was 55% and 55, it wouldn't work mathematically. I have it less than 50 so that there'll be a little bit of a sponge, knowing that you may have different browser sizes. See how much of a black sponge you have here when it's a wider screen? Well, when it's a more narrow screen, that gap closes in a little bit because we're using percentages. And as I close in, that black gap gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and I can only go so small, and then it won't even go any smaller. So if we have like a phone or a tablet that happens to be this narrow, we'll still see these guys' picture, and it's kind of long and skinny, but it doesn't break. It maintains, the picture stays there. It doesn't, one of these pictures doesn't drop underneath the other. And we did the exact same thing to this, and the source of this is you can do this .jpeg. The alt, if we break this, let's break it by misspelling the name of the JPEG. Let's refresh and see. Now you can see you can do this by Walter Anderson. That's the alt, the alternative to the image if the image is not there or if someone can't see it. Okay, so there is our images, oneimages.html. So I showed you the audio page, I showed you the image page, and now I'm going to show you our home page. This is our home page. Here in this iframe popped our audio, and here popped our images. And it popped there by us clicking this link right here. So if I close out of all of these, and I don't really need to look at these anymore, these two pages, I just have storieshome.html. I'm going to run it in Firefox. Originally, you don't see anything in either of these iframes. And the reason is, if I go to the iframe tag, they have a class, they have a name, source equals, and then they've got double quotes with nothing in it. There is no source being automatically pulled in there as soon as the page loads. Just in case I want to use this iframe for a variety of links and totally different things, I open it up blank. And then when I click this, then I get what I want. This iframe has the class of lower, the name of small, the source of nothing, the width of 99%. I originally gave it a height, but then I took that off by misspelling it by putting a Z in front of it. Scrolling equals auto, frame border equals 1. There's the end of the iframe, and that iframe is encased in a div called soundbar and another div called outer. So it's inside this div and this div. So let's look at the ID outer and the ID of soundbar in our style. Here's outer. Left 0 pixels, right 0 pixels, width 100%, background color tan. You see this is, it's hard to tell that it's tan, but it is. There's a shadow over it, so you can't really tell. Then we've got this WebKit box shadow, Moz box shadow, and box shadow. And each of these three have those same parameters. That's the same as that, and that's the same as that. So we get a little shadow around that. This W is a tag that I created myself, and it's got the color of green. When I go down here to this link area, then I have a W on a W tag on the left of it, and a W and an end W tag to the right of it. And I'll show you that real quick. Right here. See that? In a tag, a W, and in an end tag, another W. And that basically was my way to colorize just this audio snippet 8:51. That's 8 minutes and 51 seconds. Okay, so we went over this. We went over outer. What was the other one I wanted to go through? That was outer. The next one is soundbar. Let's look at what soundbar has. Here's soundbar. I have soundbar and outer sharing some styles. But then when I get down here, this outer is going to basically supersede whatever this has. Whatever's different or whatever I wanted this to definitely do has this style. But when I put them together like this with a comma, all of this, they both share it. So for both of these, they both have position fixed, left 30 pixels, right 30 pixels, top 0 pixels, height 75 pixels, padding bottom -25 pixels, background color green, that's where we're getting this green one, border radius 40 pixels, text align center, and there's our three different statements for shadow. The fact that left 30 pixels and right 30 pixels and background color green, that's showing this green and this green. Then when I get down here and do outer again, I have left and right 0 pixels and width 100%. That is taking this all the way to the edge. So that's superseding. Otherwise, if I didn't have this outer right here to supersede, then this tan would be right behind the green. You wouldn't even see it. Okay, so then what's next? We did outer, we did soundbar, iframe. Class equals lower. Let's see what styles are in class equals lower. Here's the lower, and that is for the small, this iframe up here. I don't know why I called it lower. Margin top -5 pixels, width of 90%, border radius of 40 pixels, which makes it really nice and round instead of this right here is more square. This is like really round. Height of 75 pixels, and here again are those three statements that give us a shadow. Okay, so that's for this black iframe here. We wanted it to match as closely as possible to these two divs. So I've done the div ID outer, I've done the div ID soundbar, I've done the iframe, class lower, name equals small. This is going to identify where this iframe is, because what this right here, window.small.location.ref, what's going to go inside there is box/1sound.html, because we used this name small, and this iframe has the name of small. If you spell this with a capital and don't spell this with a capital, then it won't work. So you have to have the same exact spelling for name equals and when you identify something that needs to go in that particular one. Okie doke. I think I already said source equals nothing, width is 99%. I didn't go with the height. I did scrolling equals auto, frame border equals 1, end of iframe, end of div, end of div. Div ID nav. Let's look at ID nav up here. Here's the ID of nav. That's talking about this thing right here. Position fixed, width 25%, padding 10 pixels. I did use a float, but then I wound up not needing it, so I Z'd it out. Minimum height 96%. That's interesting because this really is definitely not a height of 96%. Interesting. What if I change this, Z it out? There's no difference. Minimum width 250 pixels, margin top 50 pixels, margin left negative 50 pixels, and Z index of 99. When you have fixed positioned elements on a page, you want to give it a Z index, because if you have 4 or 5 different fixed things, you want to have the layers, what is going to be on top of what. So that's how you use the Z, that's why you would use the Z index. And that's the nav. What's next? Inside that nav, you have a UL, which is an unordered list, and then you have one list item, only one. And that one list item has a link, and here's the link. Here's the beginning link tag, all of this that's highlighted with a background of yellow, and here's the ending link tag, and everything in between is the text that you physically see here that you're going to put your mouse cursor on and click. You have tilde, title, a hand to guide me, and this is a break tag, which lets us go down to another line. And then you have tilde by Denzel Washington with another break tag to go down a line, and then the last tilde, and then audio snippet 851, but audio snippet is surrounded by that W tag that I created that colorized it green. Okay, so let's get back up to this beginning part of the link tag. A href equals box/1images.html. Target equals big. And if we look at the iframe down here at the bottom that's inside a div tag with an ID of content, iframe name equals big, source equals nothing, width equals 100%, height equals 100%, scrolling equals auto, and frame border equals 1. That is this iframe, and it's inside a div called content. And let me really quickly look at the content style really quick. So we're talking about this big square. The width of 72%, border thin maroon solid. It's really thin. It's just like a little tiny line. Padding is 10 pixels. Height is 80%. Position is fixed. I did have a top style, but I Z'd it out. So now it doesn't matter. Margin left of 26%. Margin right of 10 pixels. Background color of white. And margin top of 80 pixels, because you've got like 75 pixels going on here, 75, 80. So this right here, the beginning of this black iframe is 80 pixels from the top of this window. the interior of the window. So that's the content div. And inside that content div, we've got an iframe. And I think I already went over this. Name equals big, source equals nothing, width equals 100%, height equals 100% scrolling auto, frame border equals 1. Oh, I know. I don't think I went into all of this. No, I didn't. I still have to talk more about the link tag here, because this link tag is doing double duty. It doesn't just have an href, it has an on-click event. And the on-click event is what's going to allow me to click this and get two different things to open. Normally when you click something in a web page, it'll either open right here or it'll open in a new tab. This is going to open two different things in two different areas, and the on-click event is going to let me do that. The first part, the href, this is going to open up my first page in the target equals big iframe. The onClick is going to do a couple of things. This.style.color equals black is going to allow this to turn black when we click it. If I were to change this to red and save it and refresh it, it should, when I click it, turn. It's thinking. It's kind of frozen right now. I threw it off. Stop plugin. It turned red. Now it's really butt ugly being red like that. So I want to change that back to black. But you can change that to any color. Okay, so let's refresh it and click it and it stays black. Okay, so that's one thing the onClick does when you click this. Another thing, you got window.small. That's the ID of small is the target for this iframe, because this iframe we gave the name of small. And the dot location dot ref is box/1sound.html. So that sound page that I showed you is going to open up right here. So you're going to click this, it's going to allow this to be read, and it's going to open this here. Initially it's going to open this here, so you got two different things opening in two different places. The last tag statement we have in that onClick event is return true. Then, like I said, this is the beginning. All this with the yellow background is the beginning of the link tag, and down here is the end, and everything in the middle that goes from there to there I already mentioned. The title, A Hand to Guide Me, is up here. Break by Denzel Washington. Break audio snippet 851. End of link, end of list item, end of unordered list, end of div. Div ID content. We already did that, I believe. Yep, with a thin maroon solid. That's all this down here. Here's the iframe. Again, the name is big, the source is nothing, the width is 100%, height is 100%, scrolling is auto, frame border is 1, iframe, end div, end body, end HTML. So I've showed you all three pages. I've shown you every bit of the code from top to bottom for all three pages, and I've showed you how to make a link that opens up two different pages into two different iframes.